When a private video of Chrissy surfaces online, it sends shockwaves through the hip-hop world, but nothing compares to Jim Jones' explosive reaction. Accusing his longtime friend and collaborator Camron of betrayal, Jim doesn't hold back. What began as a leak turns into an all-out war of words, loyalty, and secrets that were never meant to see daylight. As the internet catches fire, fans are torn, alliances crumble, and the truth becomes more dangerous than the lies. Is Camron really to blame? Or is there more to the leak than anyone's admitting? The hip-hop world thrives on spectacle, album drops, diss tracks, social media beefs. But even in a scene used to drama, nothing could have prepared fans for what happened on a quiet Thursday morning when a grainy, 47-second video began circulating across Twitter, Reddit, and every gossip blog imaginable. The footage was shaky, but unmistakable. It showed Chrissy Lampkin, longtime partner of rapper Jim Jones, in what looked like a private hotel suite, talking candidly on the phone. The conversation was personal, emotional, and clearly never meant for public ears. Within minutes, it was viral. By noon, #ChrissyLeak was trending worldwide. By evening, the speculation started. Who recorded this? Who leaked it? And why now? Jim Jones was silent for the first few hours, too silent. Fans flooded his social media, demanding answers, support, or at least a reaction. But Jim was processing something deeper than public embarrassment. For him, this wasn't just a relationship crisis or a PR disaster. This was war behind the scenes. His camp was already in damage control mode. Lawyers were scrambling. PR reps were issuing statements. But nothing could calm what Jim felt inside: betrayal, and the name that kept coming up in every whisper, every tweet, every suspicious mention. Camron, the same Camron who had been his friend, his brother, his collaborator in Dipset, now allegedly the man behind the leak. There was no solid proof yet, only theories and a few cryptic comments made weeks earlier. But the possibility alone was enough to tear open old wounds. In a private studio session that night, Jim Jones finally exploded. Cameras weren't meant to be rolling, but someone captured the moment, a blurry video of him pacing, shouting into the air, "Wanna play games with my family? After all these years? This is what it is now." That clip leaked too. And it added fuel to the fire. The next day, Jim finally took to Instagram Live. He sat in the dark, face barely lit by his phone screen, voice low but sharp. "Y'all want a statement? Here's your statement. I know who did it. I know why. And I ain't letting this slide." Boom. The internet exploded again. Fans dissected every frame, every syllable. And everyone had the same thought. It had to be Camron. And back in Harlem, old Dipset affiliates were being dragged into the mess. Some defended Cam, claiming he'd never stooped so low. Others hinted that there was unfinished business between the two. Business that had been left to rot for years. Meanwhile, Chrissy remained silent. That silence spoke volumes. In private, Chrissy was devastated. The video wasn't just embarrassing, it was intimate. It included references to a health scare, an emotional breakdown, and vague mentions of someone she no longer trusted. Her trust had been shattered, and she didn't even know who to be angry at. Her team believed the footage was taken months ago, during a hotel stay in Miami. Chrissy had traveled alone for a brief break. The room was booked under a pseudonym. The phone conversation was a late-night call with a therapist. How someone had obtained it was still unclear, but Camron? He had been in Miami that same weekend. Coincidence? The blogs didn't think so. YouTubers dropped timeline breakdowns, side-by-side clips, and old interviews. One resurfaced clip from 2021 showed Camron joking about how some folks be slipping, thinking they private when they public. The video was now being used as evidence. Camron's response: nothing. Total silence. Not a tweet. Not a post. Not even a denial, and for many fans, that silence was its own confession. Meanwhile, Jim's inner circle grew smaller. Those who stayed were family. The rest? Gone. Burned bridges. Even Love and Hip Hop reached out for a special reunion taping, but Jim declined. "I ain't putting my trauma on a soundstage," he reportedly told producers, but trauma was exactly what Chrissy was dealing with. Jim and Chrissy argued hard. Behind closed doors, there were shouting matches, tears, and moments of total collapse. Jim felt helpless. He wanted revenge. Chrissy wanted peace. And the baby, caught in the middle, was the only thing keeping them grounded. Yet something about Jim had changed. Friends said he wasn't sleeping. He was rewatching old Dipset interviews, rereading texts, looking for cracks in the story, because deep down, he still didn't want to believe it was Cam, not Cam. They'd fought together, starved together, won together, shared more than tracks, they'd shared lives, and now this. By the end of the week, Jim posted again. A single sentence: "The truth always finds a way out." Cryptic, but heavy, because truth was the only thing that could heal, or destroy, What came next? The tension had been building like a storm cloud. What started as whispers in group chats and passive-aggressive subtweets had escalated into something much more volatile. Jim Jones wasn't just furious, he was hurt. And hurt men with power and platforms don't stay quiet for long. It was on a Friday night when it all exploded. A private party at a high-end lounge in downtown Manhattan was the setting for what would become one of the most talked-about confrontations in recent hip-hop memory. Jim had shown up unexpectedly. Camron was already there, surrounded by familiar faces, old Dipset affiliates, upcoming artists, and industry insiders. The room went silent the moment Jim walked in, not because of star power, but because everyone felt the storm coming. Witnesses later reported that Jim didn't even raise his voice at first. He walked straight up to Cam, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "Tell me it wasn't you." Camron didn't flinch. He didn't smile. He didn't deny it either. He just stared back and said, "You already made up your mind, Jimmy. Why you asking?" That's when it went left. What followed wasn't a brawl, it was worse. It was public. It was personal. And it was caught on 5 different phones. Jim lunged forward, pointing, yelling. Security jumped in immediately. Cam stayed calm, but his crew looked ready to move. Voices escalated. Drinks were spilled. One phone recording caught Jim shouting, "You think you a king for leaking pain? You think you built something? You just burned it all down." The video made its way to Instagram in minutes. Fans were shocked. This wasn't entertainment. This was heartbreak. Camron finally broke his silence the next morning with a cryptic post, "Sometimes the loudest one's guilty too. Remember that." Jim responded with a 4-minute IG live, pacing in his kitchen, wearing a hoodie and eyes full of fire. "I kept my mouth shut. I let y'all run your narratives. But now? I ain't sparing nobody. You leak my family's life, you out my life. Period." The internet was divided. Some stood with Jim, praising his raw emotion and loyalty to Chrissy. Others defended Cam, claiming the evidence wasn't solid and Jim was reacting off emotion. Not facts, but behind the scenes, things were crumbling. Endorsements were paused. Projects were shelved. Dipset reunion talks were cancelled, and in the middle of it all, Chrissy was trying to survive the fallout. She released a brief statement through her publicist, "This has been a painful experience. I hope all parties involved find peace. My priority is my family and my healing." But healing was hard when the wounds were still fresh. Jim wasn't just mad at Cam, he was mad at himself. For not seeing it coming. For trusting too easily. For not protecting Chrissy better. He doubled down on security. Refused to let Chrissy go anywhere without 2 bodyguards. Bought encrypted phones. Hired a private investigator. The PI uncovered something new. A burner phone linked to an IP address in Queens, connected to the initial upload of the video. That IP? Traced back to a location where Camron had reportedly held a private listening party the same week the footage was leaked. Still circumstantial. Still no smoking gun, but enough for Jim. The final nail came when an anonymous blog released screenshots of a group chat allegedly involving Camron and 2 other former Dipset affiliates. In it, someone with Cam's known username typed, "Let it leak. Let them talk. They've been playing with me too long." Cam's team denied the chat's authenticity. Claimed it was AI generated. Fake news, they said, but Jim didn't need confirmation. He unfollowed Cam. Deleted every photo of them together. Blocked mutual friends. Posted a single sentence, "You ever loved someone like blood, and they turned out to be the knife?" That quote became a movement. Fans turned it into t-shirts. Artists referenced it in freestyles. Even legends like Fat Joe and Jadakiss weighed in online. Fat Joe tweeted, "Brotherhood ain't easy. But betrayal? That's eternal." Dipset, once a symbol of Harlem unity and street glory, was now broken. What hurt most was that Jim and Cam had already survived so much: label wars, internal drama, deaths of friends. And yet, this one leak, this one moment of pain, shattered decades. In a podcast interview days later, Jim tried to reflect, "We, from the block, man, we used to fight and make up. This time, I don't see no comeback. Some bridges ain't meant to be rebuilt." He wasn't just mourning a friendship. He was mourning a legacy. And as for Chrissy? She stayed quiet. But she started therapy. She began posting soft photos, candles, books, walks. Healing in her own way. Meanwhile, Cam kept dropping music. Subtle bars. No names, but clear shots. "He said I leaked it. Nah, he leaked the trust. We was kings, now he ashes and dust." The internet ate it up, but deep down, fans weren't cheering. They were grieving. Watching a brotherhood die. The confrontation had made one thing clear: this wasn't rap beef. This was family. And family wars leave scars that bars can't heal. Weeks passed since the confrontation, but the tension never eased. It lingered in the silence between posts, in the unspoken words between mutual friends, and in the fragments of Dipset's once unbreakable legacy. Jim Jones had withdrawn from public appearances, spending more time at home with Chrissy. The energy that once fueled his music and presence was now focused inward, protecting, processing, and reflecting. For Chrissy, the healing process had become her priority. She started attending therapy regularly and avoided media altogether. What happened to her wasn't just a betrayal by someone else, it had forced her to confront vulnerabilities she never planned to share. A leak had turned her private pain into global spectacle, and the emotional aftermath was heavy. But in pain, there's also power. Chrissy began journaling. Writing turned into purpose. She drafted essays about mental health, trust, and the dangers of public exposure. Quietly, she was preparing to launch a nonprofit to support women who'd experienced digital abuse or revenge leaks. Jim supported her fully, attending every meeting, backing every move. For him, this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding something real. Still, his heart hadn't healed. He replayed old Dipset footage like a movie he couldn't stop watching. Not out of nostalgia, but from confusion. How had it all gone so wrong? An old clip resurfaced from a 2005 tour, Jim and Camron laughing backstage, passing a mic back and forth. That laughter used to be real. Or so Jim thought. The betrayal had changed how he saw everything. In one quiet night in Harlem, Jim returned to the same studio where Dipset had recorded some of their biggest tracks. The room was empty now. Dust on the keyboard. A cracked mic stand. But the energy was still there. He sat down and started recording. No beat. Just words. We built this on love. But love turned to silence. And silence became violence. Now I'm trying to breathe in rooms filled with ghosts. It wasn't meant for release. It was therapy. But when he played the raw audio for Chrissy, she cried. Not from pain, but recognition. It was the first time he'd opened up in weeks. In that moment, something shifted. Instead of waiting for closure, Jim started building it. He reached out to those he still trusted, Joel Santana, Freaky Zeke. He didn't want to rebuild Dipset. He wanted to rebuild himself. But that meant facing everything. Even Cam Joels was hesitant. You sure about this? He asked. Jim nodded. I'm not looking for peace with him. I'm looking for peace in me. Meanwhile, Camron remained cryptic. He dropped another freestyle, slick bars that alluded to haters drowning in their own tears, but still no direct shots. Some fans speculated he felt guilt but wouldn't admit it. Others claimed it was all calculated, a masterclass in attention marketing. But inside Cam's circle, a different story emerged. One of his close friends spoke anonymously in a podcast, revealing that Cam had been shaken by how things spiraled. That he'd tried to reach out to Jim through intermediaries, but never directly. That he never intended for Chrissy's video to become a weapon. That it was meant as a warning, and it got out of hand. Whether true or not, Jim wasn't ready for forgiveness, but he was ready for something else. Purpose. He and Chrissy launched their foundation, Private No More, to support victims of digital exposure. They partnered with tech platforms to create better privacy resources. They met with lawmakers to push for stronger online privacy laws. The story had started with pain. Now it was becoming power. Jim began releasing new music again, not diss tracks, but introspective projects. One track titled Ghosts of Harlem charted within 24 hours. You ever walk streets where your memories live? You ever fight shadows and forget how to forgive? Fans felt the growth, the maturity. This wasn't the Jim Jones of old. This was a man who had endured something personal and come out transformed. And Camron? He stayed silent. He didn't respond to the foundation. He didn't mention the leak again. He went back to his world of fashion drops and low-key collaborations, but in one Instagram story, he posted a blurry photo of Harlem rooftops with the caption, "Some stories ain't meant to end. They just run out of pages." Was it regret? Was it peace? No one knew. What they did know was that Jim and Chrissy had survived something real. Something ugly. And instead of folding, they rose. Their relationship wasn't perfect. But it was honest. Transparent. Raw. And when they posted a photo together outside the Private No More office, no filters, no edits, just them, the comments weren't messy. They were full of love, resilience. Power couple. Real. Over fake any day. The story that began with a leak had become a lesson in pain, growth, and choosing love over ego. Jim wasn't who he was before. Neither was Chrissy, and maybe that's the whole point. You can't go back. But you can move forward, with clarity, with courage, and with those who stand beside you when the whole world turns its back. That's not weakness. That's strength, and in the end, that's the story that mattered most. If this story stirred something in you, anger, empathy, or even reflection, don't let it fade when the video ends. Real lives are affected by what goes viral. Privacy isn't a luxury, it's a right. And in today's digital world, we all have a role in protecting it. Support organizations like Private No More and others fighting against digital abuse and online exploitation. Share this story not for the gossip, but for the lesson. Betrayal, pain, healing, and growth are part of the human experience. Let's uplift those who turn their pain into purpose. If you or someone you know has been a victim of online leaks or revenge content, don't stay silent. Help is available. Speak out. Protect each other. Because the internet never forgets, but we can choose how we use it. Like, comment, share. Start a conversation that matters. This isn't just celebrity drama, it's a wake-up call. Let's be better. Let's do better. Together.